So we're a really iterative project that really tries to learn, and this isn't the right time now, but I really want to hear from all of you if the last 2 days were helpful, if what we're doing is helpful, because we strive to actually support practitioners in the field and policymakers. And so we do want to take this sort of inflection moment and hopefully bilaterally can follow up to hear your thoughts on where we still need to go, what we need more of, and how we can be more supportive. But now I think I want to maybe ask the two of you to think strategically. As an international community, based on the discussions we've had today, if you have some insights of sort of where we need to go next, if there's a data point that's stuck out or a way of working, or something that questioned an assumption or reaffirmed maybe what we're already doing. But I'd love to just hear a couple moments from each of you if you have some reflections on where we need to go next.
Thanks a lot. And before anything, I wanted to convey Thomas Koudjou's apologies for not being able to be with us today. He's the head of the DDR component in DPO, Department of Peace Operations. So that's given me the privilege of being here and representing him. But to come to your point, actually, I think that the past 2.5 days really provide us with a wide range of evidence-based research that really give us key recommendations on aspects that policy makers and practitioners need to take into consideration when trying to address factors that drive recruitment into armed groups. And at the same time, giving us some key pointers on possible area that need to be looked into when addressing those key aspects. One of them being across all contexts, the fact that the loss of livelihood, including through climate change impact, or lack of access to basic services or lack of good governance. Also the fact that family, community play a key role, either as a push or pull factor, are key aspects that we need to look at. But moving forward, with all those research, how do we really make them pragmatic and being operationalized on the ground? For a practitioner point of view, how do we really use this breadth of study to really implement projects that really address the root cause of all the conflict that we are dealing with? And it's where I really think that there's more work to do when it's come to bridging the gap between research and practice. We might need to see how additional research could be further down to then go to the programmatic level. What are the real interventions that really need to be programmed in order to address those issues? We have heard that one of the key aspects in some of the conflict area where we operate is that there's no economical environment in which people reintegrate to. But we know that this is a key aspect. So which are the type of study or additional information that we need to build that economical environment that we all need in order to facilitate the reintegration of our targeted beneficiaries? The same goes with the fact that we all agree that we need to be gender sensitive in our programming. Concretely, what that means? Putting equal number of women and men in a program, is that the way? We all know that no, from the various research that we have heard about. So for us, I think now the next step, we might need to really think of what additional study will help us to really operationalize all the key recommendations that we have heard during the past 2.5 days. I'll stop here.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Siobhan, and the whole MEAC team for the invitation. I think this has been incredibly stimulating to participate in the conference. This was for me also an opportunity to review all the MEAC reports in preparation, to learn about other research as well, and interact with the researchers and reflect on the findings. I think we all saw the incredible ground that we have covered across prevention, reintegration, and this, I think, is very important for this practice area. Let me start by the UNDP's recognition that evidence gives value, legitimacy, and direction to policy. And I wanted to add that in addition to policy, I think we should think of programming. And as you have rightly pointed out through the conference, it's not just this evidence, it is also the learning aspect. So I think we all know that the important part of generating evidence is looking at exits from armed conflict without being conditioned by the existing frameworks. I think that is very important, whether DDR, PRR, but also SSR, and broader community security. I think we need to accept that we need to look at these issues without the preconceptions or assumptions that we usually come with these responses. So I think it's an incredible added value, the fact that we are approaching this from this perspective. And there are immense opportunities here. So what are the opportunities that we have if we think strategically how we take this forward? So first of all, linking the evidence to the policy. So I will try to reflect on the evidence linked to policy, evidence linked to programming, and evidence linked to learning. And I think the easy and immediate one is the evidence to policy. I think we have all seen how generating evidence generates those strategic policy shifts. I think we from UNDP, we achieved that through the journey into violent extremism. I think this has been widely recognized. But there are many opportunities around other sets of policy also. And I think we know that in terms of when we come from this perspective of disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, of course there is the integrated DDR standards that consolidate all the different practices, knowledge that exist, lessons learned. And I think we definitely still need, I think we have just come out of a revision of a couple of years. And I think we're going to go through an exercise of also reflecting and learning lessons from the review. And definitely one of the lessons is how to link better to evidence. I think there's no doubt that we would gain if we manage to do this in a much more consistent way. So linking more to the academic research that exists and policy-oriented research would certainly be important. I think we have many opportunities in this area around the formulation also of reintegration policies and strategies. So this, for example, in the Lake Chad Basin region, we do have the LCBC working on the formulation through the validation, I would say, of a reintegration policy for the region. And I think certainly this exercise will benefit also during the whole validation from evidence that's generated through this project. And I think there are some other situations, such as some other contexts, such as in Iraq and in Ukraine, completely different contexts where there is a commitment by governments also to formulate reintegration policies, national reintegration policies. So these are processes that we have been supporting, and definitely I wouldn't be able to support this without trying to connect the evidence that's generated around that. So that is key. Let me link to the programming. I think that's where evidence linked to programming is, it's an easier link, policy-oriented, evidence-based policy or policy-oriented research. I think in terms of the programming, we are still, I think it's a big jump, as I was putting it. We need to, I think a lot of the quantitative analysis that we have seen, perceptions, a lot of it based on perception surveys, is one element of what we need for programming. I think in our practice, we need also a much more, there is the profiling of the participants, of course, in the program. Some of it comes through the research, but there is also the areas of return, understanding much better the delivery mechanisms for assistance when that is necessary, capacity of services. There's a whole set of preparatory work that's needed for us to be able to formulate this evidence-based programming. So there is much more to do in that area. Let me get to the last point on the MEAC evidence and the learning. It's interesting that this whole effort is about the evidence, but the learning was added to it. And we have seen similar parallel effort within the framework of the integrated DDR training group. I think we have developed, they started, this group who came out of the effort to ensure that training is based on the integrated DDR standards. However, so it starts out with training, and now there is this trend in going towards research. I think here you start from the research, going to the learning. So there is certainly this recognition that we need to bring this communities together. So we can build on each other's strengths. I think there is much to do in terms of capacity building to generate this evidence. I think we benefited so much, not only from the MEAC knowledge that was generated, but also from other researchers. And this is something that we feel that, but now particularly that MEAC is part of UNIDIR, which is also part of this interagency working group. There is a role to play in terms of not just conducting research, but convening researchers in this area, setting up tools, just as the assessment tools that you have been formulating, the questionnaires, standards, codes of conduct to ensure there is ethics is observed. All of this needs to be articulated for us to generate widely this evidence in a way that's comparable also across the board. So I think we trust that all these avenues of work will be explored. These are just suggestions. And I should just thank you all for this incredible opportunity to come together. I hope this is just the first out of many new events, conferences to come in the future.
Give us a week to recover before we answer that question. I want to thank both of you, and I think what you've said is music to our ears, because we want to be impactful on policy and programming and advanced learning, but that's hard to do. And so it's really great to hear that is wanted and needed, and I think through organizations and collaborations like the IAWG, all of the partners that we have here today between UNDP, DPO, IOM, UNICEF, and others, I think that's where we want to move, is that kind of deeper collaboration so that we are actually helping operationalize and feed into programming. So just to say that's very much where we want to go. I'll just take, if I can, 4 minutes. We want to go further in that way. We want to go further in time and following people. We're going to continue work in these 3 case studies. We're deepening our partnerships in all of them, which is really exciting. we're going to keep trying to sort of reimagine and rethink our approach to understanding the role of climate change. I don't think we've gotten it right. I think we've only taken one piece of a slice at it, and I don't think it's necessarily the right one or the only one. So that's a conversation we want to continue. We also want to think about other types of organized violence in contexts that are interconnected or maybe related, like banditry in the Northwest, I think is a really interesting place where we're moving. And I think we're unusually placed with a couple populations to offer something on really pressing kind of practical challenges like the mass surrenders in Northeast Nigeria. So those are some of the places that we're going. We really encourage your feedback because we want to make this practically useful and really embed it into the UN processes to be helpful to those who are actually working on the ground. So that's a little where we're going, and I hope we continue this conversation.